Please, you have the floor.
Уважаемый председатель,
Chair, distinguished colleagues, participants in the Permanent Forum. In the context of the mandate of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples, it's important to clearly delineate the fact that climate change is not only an environmental crisis, it is a fact that exacerbates existing violations of the rights of Indigenous peoples, rights that are enshrined in Articles 3, 4, 25, and 26 of the Declaration of the United Nations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. As for the Russian Federation, here we see an overall impact of climate change and industrial pressure, extreme weather events, including fires in Siberia and in Yakutia, the recent flooding in Dagestan, and also the cycles of freezing and thawing that are anomalous in the Arctic. These are causing mass death of reindeer. They're undermining food security, undermining livelihoods and cultural ways of life. At the same time, extraction projects are broadening without full and effective ensuring of the principles of preliminary consent. This infringes on the right to self-determination, which is enshrined in Article 3. As for Central Europe, pressure is rising there, namely on the territories of indigenous peoples in the context of the green transition. Renewable energy projects and other critically important resources should not be carried out at the expense of the rights of indigenous peoples. This requires more stringent implementation of the rights to self-determination set out in Article 4. As for Central Asia, the climate has had an impact that includes desertification, water shortages, degradation of pastoral lands too. This is already disrupting the traditional forms and ways of life, and it is curtailing the participation of indigenous peoples in decision-making and undermining their cultural and spiritual link to the land and undermining Article 25. In all regions, the question of the right to the land, territory, and resources set out in Article 26 remain fundamental, and they're unresolved too. We see something too often, namely sustainable development being touted as something uncontroversially positive. However, for indigenous peoples, ensuring them without consent and without justice, that's just colonial logic in a new form. We're particularly concerned by the security of indigenous peoples, their leaders, and human rights defenders. There are documented incidents of pressure being brought to bear on people that were championing their rights. This includes participants in international fora. There was a very recent case with Daria Egereva, and this shows the broader trend in the civil society space. In this regard, we think it's necessary to, number one, strengthen mechanisms to ensure full and effective participation of indigenous peoples in climate policy, and that should be done at all levels. This includes implementation of free, prior, and informed consent. Second, we need direct, accessible mechanisms for climate financing for indigenous peoples. Third, we need to strengthen the legal protection of lands and resources as the basis for climate resilience. 4, we need to ensure the protection of indigenous peoples, their leaders, and human rights defenders, including their safe and full-fledged participation in international processes. And number 5, we need to continue integrating the knowledge of indigenous peoples on the climate on equal footing with the scientific supports. Effective policies are not possible without fully observing the rights of indigenous peoples. This is not only a matter of justice, it is a matter of effectiveness. I thank you.